Good afternoon. I'm Max Brantley with the Arkansas Times on Tuesday, January 27th, with news from Arkansas. Governor Asa Hutchinson presented his budget today to the Joint Budget Committee of the legislature. It was mostly in broad strokes. He gave us a few hints at some specifics that will be interesting to people. There's going to be a cost of living raise, he thinks, for state employees. They'll be happy. There's going to be reduced spending, however, in a number of smaller state agencies, 1% cuts in a lot of them. Education, higher education, and corrections are going to have increases. They must to continue to operate. There's going to be an increase in reimbursements for counties for holding state prisoners. There's more money for drug courts, and there's more money for reentry programs for former inmates to try and get them back into the community in a working fashion. It's a balanced budget, of course. It has to be under law. It includes $100 million in tax cuts, and that takes us to our next topic. Shortly after the joint budget meeting, the House Revenue and Taxation Commission took up the Asa Hutchinson income tax bill, which had passed the Senate. This includes some $80 to $100 million in tax cuts for middle-income taxpayers on their income taxes. The House wants to put back in some capital gains tax increases that they'd passed in 2013, and they added an amendment to the bill today to do just that. There's going to be a news conference this afternoon at which we're going to get a response from the governor, because his budget, after all, includes some $10 million worth of capital gains tax repeal that was going to be added to the money he expected to have on hand. He won't have that now if the House passes this bill. Progressives in the legislature are not really happy that within 48 hours after passage of the governor's income tax bill, there are already some takes-backs from other Republicans. They wonder if there are going to be more. It's worth noting that the capital gains tax cut that the governor wanted to repeal, but which was put back in today, the majority of it is enjoyed by people, the top 1% who make more than $250,000 a year. You remember that Governor Hutchinson's income tax bill includes not a single dollar of benefits for the lowest 40% of Arkansas taxpayers who make less than $21,000 a year. News on a small but interesting bill at the legislature. An amendment that's been added to Representative Nate Bell's bill to end the dual observance of Robert E. Lee and Martin Luther King Jr. birthdays, a quaint old custom in the Deep South that has offended people for years. It's a good bill, but he's had to amend it to satisfy some of the Lee idolaters out there. They would create a separate Memorial Day for Lee and Patrick Cleburne, the famous Arkansas Civil War general. It would not be a state holiday, and there'd be a King holiday. Whether this still is enough to satisfy the sons of the Old South, we don't just know yet. The KKK is against anything that diminishes Robert E. Lee, and who's going to win at the Arkansas legislature? If it's still in doubt between Martin Luther King or KKK, I think we're in a bad way. News today in the same-sex marriage case, the plaintiff's lawyers have said they oppose the second round of oral arguments by the Arkansas Supreme Court just because there have been a couple of changes in justices since the case was argued more than 2 months ago. I think I'd make a prediction that there's going to be a 4-member majority of the court that's going to decide there should be a second round of arguments and that they should include the new justices. But I think eventually this Supreme Court is going to uphold Crispy Asa and overturn the state's ban on same-sex marriage, rather than risk being on the wrong side of history against dozens of other states. Other news, the unemployment rate in Arkansas continues to drop. Jermain Taylor has been ordered to have a mental evaluation in his 2 pending cases over assault with guns, and I think the fact that he's been battered in boxing probably mandates that some look be made for other causes for his behavior in recent times. There was an incredible hearing in Little Rock last night in which 150 people turned out in favor of preserving the Little Rock School District rather than being taken over by the state. That vote is going to come tomorrow. It's going to be a tough decision for whoever makes it. I was interested to read in the Arkansas Democrat Gazette today that Asa Hutchinson is taking applications for his new Economic Development Commission director in his office, so that he doesn't have to reveal who the applicants are, as the Freedom of Information Act normally would require. Kind of ironic. The head of the Arkansas Republican Party just a few months ago sued Governor Mike Beebe, a Democrat, because he wouldn't release, guess what, job applications for seats on states, boards, and commissions. But that was then. There's a different guy in the governor's office now and a different view of the Freedom of Information Act. Funny story out of Iowa. Mike Huckabee is pandering to the religious right in Iowa, where he has a demonstrated good track record. In a radio interview a few days ago, he complained about how women in the Fox News newsroom in New York cuss on the job. They throw the F-bomb around all the time. He knows women in Iowa don't talk like that. I got a hint from Mike Huckabee. I know some women in Iowa, and they now and then throw the F-bomb. Sorry. And finally, another interesting little FOI story. Something's going on with the North Little Rock football coach. I made an FOI request yesterday to ask who the football coach was, and the superintendent said he couldn't answer that question, that it would violate the FOI if he told me. So something weird is going to happen. Someday we may soon know what the answer is. I'm Max Brantley, and I'll be back tomorrow.